Always great chatting with my next guest, Lauren Murphy, who's back in action. She's got a big fight coming up here at UFC 263. She's going to be taking on Joanne Calderwood on June 12th. Lauren, how's it going?
Good, man. Everything's good. Loving it out here in Texas. Eating some tacos for lunch. Got my dog here. So, yeah, it's been a good day so far.
Yeah, I got to ask the most important question in this interview. What type of taco did you eat? Because I was getting pretty hungry when you told me that before we started the interview.
I make my own taco mix with bison and turkey, and then I like to put black beans in it and pinto beans and some tomatoes and chilies and stuff. So, and then I make my own taco seasoning.
Very cool. Okay. Well, I got to come over for some lunch sometime. That sounds really good. I actually just tried bison recently. They had it, believe it or not, here in Canada, they sell ground bison at Costco. So I had it. It's pretty good. I was a fan, so.
Yeah, it's delicious. It's a lot like beef, but a little bit leaner. So I actually eat a ton of bison. I love it.
Yeah, it's really good lean meat there. Before we turn this into a cooking show, I got to talk some fighting. I know we had the UFC card over the weekend. It was in Houston, obviously. I know you got to check it out. What was it like getting to see all that and, have the fights in your own backyard, so to speak?
Oh, it was super fun. I love going to the UFC fights. I mean, I've been to a ton now, so but every show is so good. Just their production value is amazing. They just get people hyped. And Brittany Cloudy was there. She was sitting next to me. And so it was her first UFC event. And so that's always cool when you sit next to somebody and it's their first show, because you can just see they're like, this is so cool. And I like getting there early. The fights were all really good. It was a really good night. It was actually a super fun weekend. Derrick and I did a couple of appearances together.
Oh, I know. I was going to talk about Lewis in a second, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, it was a super fun weekend. It was just fight weekend all around. I got to see Dana White. I talked to him for a few minutes. The appearances were really good. The crowd was good. There was some fights in the crowd.
I saw that. That was crazy.
At the fights, so that's always a little bit of extra entertainment on top of everything. So, and then, the main event was it was crazy. It was really cool to see Beneil Dariush and Tony Ferguson fight. I've really enjoyed watching both of those fighters for a long time, but I've been a Beneil Dariush fan for a long, long time. I got a picture with him at Pans 5 years ago, and I was like, oh my God. So it was cool to see him go do his thing this weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned the main event. What a fight that was. I mean, I thought Oliveira was done after he got hit in that first round, but he ended up coming back and winning the title. What was your reaction to just that entire fight, and Oliveira with everything he's been through going and winning the UFC lightweight title?
I was losing it, man. When he was on Chandler's back, I was grabbing Joe next to me. I was like, oh my God, look at him. It's just such a bad spot to be. You don't want somebody like Oliveira on your back. And then Mike Chandler started coming back and handling business. And then the second round, I just never expected Oliveira to knock Chandler out, But that's one of the things I love about fighting. It's you literally do not know. It's any given Sunday, anybody can win any given way. And it's just fucking cool, man. And then to see how long that guy's been on the grind and how far he's come, and he's had some losses in his career and some low points. It just, I think, gives everybody a lot of hope that that we all have a chance,
Exactly. You can push through anything. I mean, it was really good. And by the way, I thought Michael Chandler looked great too. I mean, anyone saying that wasn't a good fight, I think his stock went up after that fight, just with what he was able to put on Charles and everything else. It was just a great main event. The other sort of highlight of the card, which I found cool, was Derrick Lewis. You guys have this kind of buddy cop relationship now. How cool was it, hearing him at the presser talking about you? I think it was what he said, you were talking smack or something. It was really funny. I love that stuff.
It is funny because when Derrick and I first started hanging out, when I first moved to Texas, he came to the gym one day and he was watching me train, and he's always been nice to me. I lived in Texas when he was fighting in Legacy. And so we fought on the same card in Legacy. And then I saw him around a few times, and he's just always been really kind. And so we were at the gym and I was getting ready to fight Mara Barella. And I said something about training, and he was like, yeah, just be prepared for it to go to a decision. And I was kind of like, yeah, okay, I get it. He doesn't like watching the female fights. But then I knocked her out. So when we came back to Texas, I was like, bah! Kind of giving him shit. We always talk about who's going to finish their next opponent. You got to get a good finish. And it's all in good fun. But it's funny because in our last four, we've both won our last four fights, and he has a split decision, unanimous decision, a TKO, and a knockout. And I have a split decision, a unanimous decision, a TKO, and a submission. So like we both have the same number of finishes in our last fights, and we both actually have like a lot of the same results in our last fights. So there goes my dog.
That's all good.
It's him going back and forth and teasing each other.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's awesome. And actually, you and Derrick now have the same management. This is actually the first time we've spoken since you linked up with First Round. I know you're working with Lou, one of the best in the business. How did this all come together? Because I remember last time we spoke, I didn't think you'd be with a manager for a while, but it seemed like this was a good fit for you.
Yeah. Well, I was due for a new contract. I was going to resign with the UFC. I had won all the fights on my previous contract, and now we're kind of talking about like title contention. And I tried to handle it on my own a little bit, and I just really botched it, man. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't sure, like, what to ask for or what was fair. I kind of wanted to argue on my own behalf, but that's very hard to do, being the fighter, talking to the promotion directly. And so I was like, man, I really need a manager, but I don't trust anybody. I don't know, like, who to go to. And Derrick liked Lou, and Derrick doesn't trust anybody either. And so I asked Derrick about it, and Derrick was like, he said that Lou had done right by him. And then Lou is friends with my coach, with Bob Perez. And so I just figured, like, if I'm going to take a chance on anybody, it's going to be somebody like that is close to people that I'm close to, that, these guys are vouching for him. And Lou was really good to us even before I signed with him. We could call him, like, with little questions, like, do you know anybody that can help us with this? Do you know anybody that can help us with that? What do you think about this? And he was always willing to answer our questions and just be good to us, even before I was paying him. So it felt like the right thing to do. And First Round does have a lot of good fighters, under management with them. So they have done right by me too. Since I signed with them, they got me a good contract with the UFC that I'm super happy with. They've gotten me some sponsorships that I'm happy with, like the appearances during fight week and stuff. Like it's all really working out for me, and I'm glad that I signed with Lou.
And you got a big fight here against Joanne Calderwood. I love this matchup. All signs are kind of pointing to this being the number one contender fight. But looking at Joanne, she had the title shot. She ended up losing to Jennifer Maia. She wins her last fight. How do you look at this fight from a style perspective? Because it's a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, I think I actually really respect JoJo, as a fighter and as a person. Like, I think she's a positive, happy person. She seems to have a pretty good life. I follow her on Instagram, and I follow her coach, I guess her husband or fiance or whatever. But yeah, she seems like a hard worker. I know that when she fights, she keeps a really high pace, and that's something that'll be a challenge. She's going to probably beat up my body quite a bit. I think, I noticed that she really likes to go to the body and tire her opponents out. She's very good at kicking. So it's like she's a better technical striker, I think, but I think I'll be more powerful. I think I'm a better wrestler. My ground game, I think I'm going to have the edge on the ground game, and I'm going to be physically stronger. I think I'm going to be a bigger athlete. She might be a little bit taller than me, but I'll be a little bit thicker. So it's like I'm going to be trying hard to keep up with her pace and get around her long strikes. She does really well when people stand in front of her. So
good stuff. Who are you mainly getting to work with for this camp as far as bodies in the gym?
Oh, tons. So we brought in a bunch of women. I flew in some women. Jillian Robertson came and trained for a week, and even though she's not necessarily JoJo's style, she was a very tough training partner to have. I've gotten to work with Brittany Cloudy. She won I forget what it is, the World MMA.
I know Brittany. I actually interviewed Brittany a couple of years ago when she fought for LFA, so I'm very familiar. When you mentioned her, I remembered right away who she was. So she's quite good. I know she's an up-and-comer as well. So
yeah, she's awesome. And then I got to work with Becca Irwin quite a bit this camp. So she's a IFMA champion and a Muay Thai world champion. And so as far as like seeing like a lot of kicks and knees and Muay Thai timing, like I don't think there's anybody better I could have worked with. And then I got a couple guys that I work with, Jacob Berry and Casey Jones. Jacob Berry's specialty is Muay Thai, and so he's a very good kickboxer. And Casey Jones has been an awesome sparring partner for me. We've had him almost the entire camp. So we brought in a lot of women to work with. I actually have a couple women from Phoenix that are coming this week, and I'm really excited to train with them. They're old training partners from the lab. So Honestly, it's just been a really fun camp, and working with all those different female bodies has really helped me pull the trigger, I think, and kind of helped me practice like implementing my game plan, like just doing what I do and not worrying about what they're going to do. And so that's been cool to practice.
And it sounds great. It's like a custom camp for you. You're bringing all these different partners in. It's all about you, which you have to be, right? It's like at the end of the day, it's an individual sport. So the fact that you're really, honing in on that and not necessarily going to like a big team and it's like, okay, whatever the big team's doing, we'll do. You're sort of doing it specifically to you, right? Which I'm sure you haven't had the opportunity to do that in the past a lot, right? So it's been good that you're kind of customizing it.
Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly right. I love that now I'm at a level where my camps can be tailored to me. I'm in a good enough spot. I make enough money now where I'm able to structure these camps where it's all about me and my fight. And so every day, every practice is centered around my fight that I have coming up. And it makes me feel like there's no wasted time. Which, if you're going to a practice that has 20 or 30 people on the team, it's like you're just going to do whatever they're doing that day, regardless of whether or not it has anything to do with your fight or if it's stylistically what you need to be working on or if it has anything to do with your game plan. And I love that. So every practice I go to, it's like we're implementing my game plan. I'm practicing what I want to do. We're getting sparring partners that are emulating, what I'm going to see as best they can. And I feel, like I said, I just feel like it opens up so much time for me because every minute that I spend working is well spent. And it does mean a lot in camp for that because the rest of my time is spent like food prepping or resting. Rest is huge. So it's really freed up everything for me. And it's just nice to be in that kind of spot in my career where I can have camps like that. It's made it way more enjoyable.
How's this fight playing out on June 12th? How do you envision the fight going down?
I want to get a finish like you wouldn't fucking believe.
I can tell. I like it.
I really do. I think if I can finish, because I've beat people in the top 10 before, but my goal right now is I really want to finish somebody in the top 10 that I want to make, that would say not only am I ready to fight for the title, but I'm ready to be the champion, but I think everything depends on my performance. And so that's kind of what we've really focused on is if I have a good performance, everything else will take care of itself.
So I interviewed Valentina Shevchenko right after she beat Jessica Andrade, and I asked her, I said, what's next? There was some talk of her maybe going back up to fight Nunes, but she was pretty clear that she thinks that the winner of your fight is going to fight next. I know you get asked this a lot, but hearing that, does that not make you feel pretty good that, it seems likely that this is what's going to happen is the winner of your fight is going to get the title shot? Have you been told that, or is there any indication that you've had that might be the case?
No, just little hints like that. I've even talked to the matchmakers and they'll just say oh, it's a big fight coming up. And I think that's kind of the best you can hope for because like I said, it all depends on my performance. And so people have been asking me a lot about Valentina and fighting Valentina and you should be fighting for the title and this, that, and the next thing. And it's I'm happy to fight JoJo. I really am. And I'm happy to get that octagon time and I'm happy to have the opportunity to go have a great performance. And, we're just going to have to see how this fight goes. Like I said, I think it just all depends on performance. So that's it. That's really the only thing I'm really thinking about, but it is an honor to be fighting at this level. And I think that, I'm in a great spot in my career. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished up to this point. And, I think June 12th, I'll be able to add another feather in my cap and have another really great performance. And it's just going to speak for itself. All the hard work that I've put in over the last 10 years is going to come out on fight night. And that's a pretty cool feeling in itself, kind of no matter what happens afterward, because one thing I know about this sport is you can never count on anything. It's the UFC could say, oh, this is a number one contender fight. And then JoJo gets sick or falls out the week of the fight and I end up fighting somebody else. And then it's not a number one contender fight anymore. Or maybe I do go on to win this fight and have a great performance. And then Valentina, gets hurt in training and she can't fight for 6 months or really anything, it's anything could happen. And so I try not to invest too much into the results before we've even had the fight. You know what I'm saying? So
No, absolutely. I gotta ask you this though: does it not bother you a little bit with fans where they're kind of like, and like, oh, you'd get destroyed? Like I always hear that whenever Valentina fights someone, and she's looked great, and all the credit goes to her and her performances. But like, it's just every time, like fans seem so like fans act like no one can be beat. I don't know if that bothers you at all when you hear stuff like that.
No, I think there might have been a time like in the past where maybe I would have taken it personally, but now it's like when people say that, I think like that's awesome that we have a champion in this division that is so respected and she's so badass, and like I might have the opportunity to stand across from her. Like that would be crazy to know that I might share the octagon with somebody that good. Like that means that I've earned my spot across from the best. And like if that were to happen, you have to think of it like this, like whoever stands in the octagon across from Valentina, no matter who it is, they have the best chance of anybody in the world to beat her because they are the ones in there with her, like certainly my odds are going to be better than the guy on Twitter who's not going to fight her, So,
right. Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. So
I think it's cool that we have a champion that is so well respected. I think it's awesome that she's been so dominant. And I do hope that someday I get my chance to face her, and I hope that I get to put on an amazing performance. And, one day I hope to wear the UFC belt. And the better the champion is in my division when that happens, then the better it is for me. So no, I don't take offense to it. In fact, I kind of like it. Like I love a good challenge, and I like kind of turning that thinking back on itself. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead and give that to me. Tell me that she's unbeatable. Tell me that she's the best ever and nobody has a chance. I love that,
Before we go, I got to ask, just because everyone's talking about it, this whole Diego Sanchez thing with the training videos and all that. I'm sure you've been seeing what's going on. Just your take on everything. To me, it's sad that this is how his career ends. He was the first Ultimate Fighter winner. He was supposed to fight Cowboy Cerrone. It seemed like everything was lined up to have a good retirement, and now we're dealing with all this stuff. Just as an outsider, what do you think of this whole situation?
I don't know. I think Diego's crazy. He kind of mouthed off at me on social media.
Did he really? When did that happen? I didn't see that.
Do you remember when MMA Fighting posted that headline?
Oh, of course I do. Yeah. The whole thing. Yeah. I remember that.
That whole thing happened. A couple fighters kind of jumped on my case, and Diego was one of them. It was like Angelo Magana, of course, Sajara, and then Diego Sanchez got on there, and it was just nonsense. He was kind of just babbling nonsense and called me a couple names and went on and on about his experience on The Ultimate Fighter. It was just, and it was like, I was like, kind of like, yeah, fuck you, Diego. Like,
right.
Like, I don't know, if you come at me on social media like that, of course I'm going to be like, yeah, fuck you, So ever since then, I've just been like, man, that guy's just fucking crazy. Like, he's just fucking crazy. And it is kind of sad, but, I have sympathy for him, but not a lot of empathy, if that makes sense, and I do feel sorry for him. But yeah, he needs to get some help. And hopefully he will. But yeah, on the other hand, fuck him. So.
Like I've always loved that about you, Lauren, is that what you see is what you get, whether it's social media here, it doesn't matter. So I appreciate the honesty on that. Okay, we're going to end on a positive note here. We talked about Derrick Lewis off the top. Is Derrick exactly like he is on camera, off camera? I got to know, and is there any interesting stories with Derrick that you've had since training with him?
Derrick is pretty quiet. He really does just want everybody to kind of leave him alone. And that's why I think that I think that's why he gives crazy answers. He's just he just wants to fight and have fun and be close to the people that he's close to. So the first time I met Derrick, it was one of the first sessions I had out here in Texas, and we went up to a CrossFit gym that our friend Alyssa runs called Grindhouse, and we parked next to his McLaren. And Bob drives this old I can't remember what it's called right off the top of my head. But anyway, I was riding with Bob and we parked next to Derrick's McLaren. And I said, hey, Bob, when we go in there, tell him that the wind caught your door and that you door dinged him. Tell him you put a dent in the McLaren, we didn't, but just tell him you did, and see what he does. And so we went in there and Derrick was on an exercise bike and he was pedaling, just kind of warming up. And Bob played it perfectly. He said, hey, man, I'm really sorry. The wind caught my door and I hit the McLaren with it and there's a dent. I will pay for any damage. And Derrick didn't even skip a beat. He was just like, just kept pedaling. He goes, I don't fucking care. And I thought, man, we didn't even get him. Like, he doesn't, like, man, we didn't get him. He doesn't care. And I was kind of bummed that he didn't buy it. And then, like, a few minutes went by, and Derrick was pedaling, and then he stopped, and he looked at Bob, and he goes, you need all that room when you get out of that car. You always get out of the car like you're a big person. You're not. You don't need all that room. And we both just started cracking up because it was like, okay, we did get him, like, you know. And then we told him that it never happened, and he was just like, oh, man. And that's kind of how it all got started with us, like, talking shit to each other in the gym and giving each other shit and talking about who's going to finish who and everything else. So that's really how it started. But honestly, Derrick's a really good guy. He does take care of his own. He takes care of his friends. He's a loyal guy. And he's a very tough person as well. He doesn't put up with shit from anybody. So I'm a big Derrick Lewis fan, even if he doesn't get very many finishes in his fights.
Lauren, this was awesome. Always appreciate the time. Anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any social media you want to plug, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, Blackout Coffee has been really good to me. I love those guys. Check this out.
Let's see. Oh, look at that.
This is like
awesome.
The best brew ever. Yeah. So if you guys get a chance, go check out Blackout Coffee. They're the shit. And then I really just always want to give a shout out to all my coaches and teams. I have a lot of great training partners out here, but you know, I'm always at Main Street or I'm always at Gracie Baja Katie. I train at Henzo's down here with my husband, and so that's obvious. Last 4 fights that I've had. So.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.